Fletch, what about the Broncos?
Yeah, Broncos, well, we touched on it earlier. Reece Walsh didn't get that. I think that the narrow field affected the Broncos more than anyone.
Yep.
Perkura going off in 4 minutes, after 4 minutes, didn't help them because they had absolutely no... sort of on the edges, they had no punch there. Carrigan had to go back out onto an edge. That's not his... He's been playing the middle the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So there's a few things that went through against them, but... it was round one.
They couldn't quite generate space. They couldn't really, and you've explained it there with Carrigan and Kaffner going the rest. They couldn't quite get their yardage game.
No. Well, the Roosters did a terrific job. And they did a terrific job on Adam Reynolds' kicking game, I thought. They really pressurised him.
A lot of Reece Walsh, every time we got into space, he looked really dangerous. Yeah. Ezra Mam looked dangerous. Yeah. You know they're going to be up there
Absolutely,
again.
Yeah.
A lot of expectations up there on the Broncos. I said that to Pat Carrigan. I said, like last year, I think as far as expectations, they overachieved. This year, I think up in Queensland, they're saying, well, we expect them to win the competition. Yeah. They can be tricky.
Yeah, well, they've lost Flegler too. They lost Herbie.
They're both big losses.
Herbie is a big loss, but I think they've done the right thing putting Selwyn in the centres. There was a couple of these little touches. I see the one when he set up the try down the left edge.
And what about when he, like his power when he runs the football?
Yeah. Because they got a lot of punch off Herbie last year coming out of trouble.
Yeah.
So Selwyn will grow into that role.
I think, Kevy, you'd just be trying to encourage Selwyn to just do a little bit more.
Yeah.
Get them for it. But they're no risk of...
They're in my top four.
Yeah, they're in mine as well. Broncos-South game, I thought both sides looked flat early. Broncos were able to elevate themselves very much thanks to Reece Walsh. Yeah. I want to talk about Reece Walsh's try under the post. Reece Walsh most of the time receives that ball on the sweep shapes. And we said this numerous times in this podcast, is a sweep shape, when you come around the sweep, it's a cul-de-sac because you really can't, you're on a one-way street, you're heading down there. Reece Walsh is successful in those plays because he's quick, silver, fast. That first step quickness he's got and he can accelerate. It's quite amazing. But he's doubly dangerous when he stands at first receiver and receives the ball square. And if you watch him the other night, like the try the other night, he catches the ball just slightly wider than normal first receiver pass. And what that's done, the defence can't outside in him. Yep. So they've got to steady because they're trying to protect the edge defence. But all the options are available there. They're steadying, they're holding back, and the threat to go out, threat with his footwork. I just think I'd love to see him playing that first receiver role a little bit more.
Well, he actually plays first receiver more than Ezra Mam does, and that's a good thing. In terms of that try, the thing that I loved about it is that, say the sweep line that you reference, if you run it on a 45-degree angle that way, your hips, your shoulders are going there. Therefore, your eyes don't see what's on the inside, and as you say, there's a cul-de-sac. If something shows up to the outside, then you hit for it. What Reece Walsh did really well is he was square, his eyes were down the field, and as that ball comes to him, he sensed space.
Yeah.
Now, I use this as a Munster reference. Sometimes when you're a ball player, the biggest threat sometimes is 3 or 4 defenders away because of their ability to skip back across.
Yeah.
And that ball comes into Reece Walsh's hands. The defenders opposite have alarm bells, but the ones that he went through just have a micro nap because they don't think he can come back.
They think they can have the rest.
As the ball comes through, he senses space, the micro nap happens, he's right foot, and the acceleration to get through there made defenders look poor, and it was more how good he was than what they were doing. But I love the fact that if you're a defender opposite Reece Walsh, it's not the 1 or 2 defenders opposite that need to be alarm bells. It is 4 or 5 on either side of him because he can skip across.
Sort of, fullbacks and fast men, great runners of football playing first receiver, Tom Trbojevic. That's his game.
Yep.
It's just bang, testing those middle defenders.
He's
all
way
the time.
more powerful than Reece. Reece brings a different first receiver role, but similar. Yep.
When Slater would jump into first receiver. I remember you blokes I think it was 2008 semi-final against Brisbane. It came to mind when Reece scored the other night, and it just shows you how dangerous like Reece and Billy are, the blokes who spook defenders with their speed. They're concerned they're going to be beaten on the outside and they chase a little hard. In that game, Billy's standing under the post as first receiver. Cameron feigns one way, hits Billy, and Billy's got his shoulder square and he's fading. But the moment he catches the ball, he just goes chop back on the inside and scores. It's just a great example of quick guys with footwork and the problems they cause.
And I think it doesn't matter what position you play. If you're a ball player and you want to beat a defence, you've got to do things quicker than the defence can react. For example, Billy or Reece or even Turbo. Like when you decide to go, you're all in and you're giving it everything because a centimetre here or there is a difference. And I love the fact that the best players do things quicker than the defence can react to it, and that's why they go through untouched. The Broncos missing Payne Haas and Reece Walsh. I love what Adam Reynolds did. Adam Reynolds had bucketed down with rain 20 minutes before kickoff, losing 2 of his best players. He just went to himself, you know what? My kicking game is going to get the job done here. As long as we complete the sets, defend really well, shut down Drinkwater and their stars, I'm going to kick them to kick us to victory. And he had, I think it was 3 try assists off his boot. The amount of times he hammered a floating kicker or torpedo from inside his own half and just Drinkwater dropped it or whatever. It was a masterclass of kicking on Friday night.
See, that could have been you. That could have been you this weekend at
I've never kicked the
Parramatta.
ball as good as him. And I'm underdone, so I think you're kicking the ball out in the front.
But in terms of rain, right? Buckets down before kickoff as a half, it's the one thing you double down on. All right, I'm going to kick my team to victory tonight, and it was class what he did the other night.
He's been so good at that for so long, hasn't he, Reynolds? He had a big year last year. Obviously, I think he was a bit injured going in the first couple of rounds, but he's a big key for them for their success. And I think he's that steady head for them. They've obviously got, you take Reno out of that team, and it sort of exposes the youth that they got there a little bit. When he's in there, you can see his leadership up there and what a job he's done.
Reece Walsh, pretty decent. Signed by Ralph Lauren, no less.
That's your sponsor, isn't it?
Yeah, welcome to the stable.
How good looking is he?
Oh, mate. Oh, no. What do you do? Mitch.
Thanks, Matty.
Thank you, mate. Fantastic tonight.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, Piercy.
Good on you, boys.
Good chat.
I was watching Parramatta against Canberra, and Mitchell Moses is irreplaceable if you still want to play the same way.
Yep.
If you want to play the same way, he's irreplaceable. If they're going to keep Dylan and Blaze in the halves, they've got to change their style. But that's by the by.
I think the Broncos are in the same boat. No Adam Reynolds.
Yeah.
I'm going to say they're in the same boat.
Yeah.
It's them against the Melbourne Storm. They come up with some points in that second half, but it was pure individual brilliance. Mam on the kick, Selwyn Cobbo had some class touches.
Yep.
And when Broncos are up and running, it's the guile, the game plan of Adam Reynolds complementing Ezra and Reece Walsh. Now, with no Adam Reynolds, do they still play the same style? Because I think Ezra Mam, for me, needs improvement in natural ball playing. He is athletic to a T. He is fast, his footwork, he can break through any line, but his ball playing needs to evolve to become that other area of his game.
Yeah, without a doubt. And what a loss it was with Adam Reynolds at half time.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it is. They're saying the scan showed only minor, but when you grab a hamstring right at the bottom, at the tendon, that can be really problematic.
The other thing too is his reaction. So the cameras caught him banging on the field and then emotionally.
Yep.
Now, through my experience, you do that, as a player, it's something more than just a minor one-weeker. So I don't know that.
I will say this. I had, back into my career, a lot of hamstring injuries. They really sap your confidence. And every time you feel it go a little bit or strain, you're devastated. Because mentally, you're back in that place. It's very hard mentally. Once you do a hamstring and you start sustaining hamstring, it takes a lot to get your confidence back into running.
Because all the soft tissues, if you're 100% physically ready, it drops you back to 90. Do another one, drops you back to 85.
It does.
It just keeps dropping
you back. And again, we come back to Tom Trbojevic last year. You just don't have the confidence to squeeze. There were times when I'm sort of nursing a hamstring, and I know it's not 100% right, and a gap would open. And you go, oh no. Because you've got to squeeze.
But Reynolds has that style of play and the pieces around him that he doesn't need to be the line breaker. He doesn't need to accelerate super hard to get through and set up a try. The way he plays is condensing defence and creating space for others, and I think he can do that.
GC, the loss in that second half, I thought they were fantastic. We'll talk about the Storm in a second. I thought they were good given the fact there's no Haas. no Walsh. They lose Renault at half time. And I tell you what a win that would have been if they won that in Melbourne.
Probably should have.
Yeah, well, if Renault stays on the field,
a couple of
they
their,
do.
and not to knock Walters or Ezra Mann, but a couple of their decisions, options, where to kick the ball, like Reynolds gets that. And he puts it in a bad spot, and therefore Melbourne don't have the opportunity.
Well, we tend to go, they've got a 4-point lead, and it might be the last tackle, 4th or 5th tackle, and Selwyn just does a little chip over the top. Little instinctive kick. Now, if Reynolds is on the field, that doesn't happen.
But even the Ezra Mam try in the second half, I think it was Walters kicks it, and it lands in that yuck area. Mam comes through and scores, right?
Yep.
That's 1 in 100 chance of doing it.
Yep.
The decision to kick in a long field position, put it in the area where Pappenhausen or Warbrick have to come out. Like, that's the decisions that are played at the back end of the game.
Just a little thing we've spoken about quite a little bit. The Broncos' first try, and I just wanted 2 examples of when we talk about sometimes when there is space on an edge, just get the ball to where it needs to go to as quick as you can. Don't worry, abandon formations and all this. Just go bang, 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 traditional through the hands. They did that beautifully in the first try. There was a bit of a break. Melbourne are short on the edge, and they just go wham, wham, wham quickly and score. So that's an example of how you do it. An example, a really interesting one to watch, if when you sometimes on the inside you've got forwards, is South Sydney. Here I go, South again. But there's a piece of play halfway through the second half. A big opportunity for South Sydney on the right-hand side of the field. And if you just watch it, what happens is Dean Hawkins and the outside men are calling for the ball. Come on, get it to us quick, get it to us quick. And Cam Murray gets the ball. And Cam catches the ball, and he actually starts to advance the ball towards the defence, because that's his natural instinct. That's the shapes he plays. But with every step he goes forward, you can see the pressure is building on Dean Hawkins. You know, like it's starting to get claustrophobic. The defence,
closer.
And he advanced it, then fires it to Dino, and there's just nowhere for him to go. It just shows you sometimes you've just got to get the ball to where it needs to go to as quick as you can.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when moments like that happen, you need to have your spine connected, because if there's a fullback or a 5'8" that's not connected to the halfback, that's when a 13 or a middle forward stands up. But if you're trying to get the ball expressed to one side of the field to the other, get your best passes together and zing it to that threat. Because the one thing that the defence doesn't want you to do is what? Get it there quickly.
Exactly.
Give it to someone who lumbers forwards and then pass out the back. Therefore, I can make a decision defensively.
Reece Walsh is going to be a pretty good player one day.
You reckon?
Mate. And I reckon, you know, Coops, geez, doesn't it raise his threat, not just his speed, but that where he gets the ball, he's ripping around on the sweep, and again, whether it's vision or whether it's instinct, to know what his target defender, how his target defender is going to try to stop him, and just change the route.
Mate, what he did
without the ball in his hands.
Mate, what he did to Timiku for that first try was, I tell you what, I haven't seen too many players do that. The only one that sort of does that, look at this. Ball in the air, he shifts as if he's going to the outside left, but when the ball's in the air, he somehow steps back off his left and goes straight through. Watch this angle here. Ball in air, steps off and moves. Timiku doesn't even get a hand on it. And then the end here, just another big left foot to go through. And the thing about this is, like, you don't like to compare, but it is hard not to when you see moves like that to Slater.
Of course.
Like, having played with him, he is one of the few that can move sideways, left or right, without slowing down and make defenders miss bad. Like, that try reminds me of a try that he scored against South in 2013, I think it was, 2013, 2014, where he's out the back of shape, ball gets moved, he hits the accelerator, I think it makes John Sutton miss, and then he throws a dummy, big right foot, and the fullback misses as well. So he's a smooth mover. And then I remember we spoke about a couple of weeks back, Reece Walsh against South Sydney, where against Reece, the opposite defender is not the one that's under threat. It's the one that is 4 or 5 defenders away. When he comes back through. And Slater's done that multiple times, where the ball goes out to one side, the ball pops back into Slater's hands, and it's not the guy that's literally across from you that should be under threat. It's the guy 3 holes wider, and he's got that footwork that he can move across the ground quicker than he can go through.
I'll tell you what else he's got in common with Slater. he doesn't give a shit about errors because early in the game, a couple of those bombs, he just let them bounce.
Yep.
And you're thinking, wow, it might not be his night.
And throws the ball out when no one's looking.
And he just forgets about it straight away.
But the thing that Billy did, it probably took Billy 7-8 years to find that right balance.
Yep.
Reece Walsh needs to find it because we marvel at his good stuff and it's better than most.
Yeah.
But wind back to the grand final last year, he had 2 moments that he clocked off and made an error and it cost his team huge. So if he can fast track that balance that Billy found in his game, one hell of a play.
It's interesting that, like, sometimes, you try things in games or players try things in games and start to develop not so much a bad habit, but it starts to creep into their game. And sure enough, sometimes at the most important moment in the most important game, it becomes, unfortunately, part of your game and, it creeps in.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I like the attitude that Reece Walsh and Ezra Mam had on the weekend because tough conditions, bucketed down with rain before the game, you're probably thinking, you know what, this is probably Canberra Raiders style. I think, Jamal Fogarty's kicking game, this is the type, but you watch their intensity on the kick chase. Every time that ball went up, young Stewart, he was under immense pressure.
Yeah.
He was under assault the whole game. So they did a good job, the Bronx.
Let's talk about the Broncos for a second. The first bloke I want to give a big rap to is Jock Madden, talking about the Broncos. His last 2 performances have been exactly what Kevy needed him to do. And they were contrasting roles. I mean, 2 weeks ago, Adam Reynolds is out. He replaces Adam Reynolds in the 7 jersey. He steers the side around the park. He steadied the ship. He kicked well, played a Reynolds role. And then last week, Ezra Mam's out. And he plays that contrasting role. Like, he didn't step on Adam's toes at all. He let Adam run the shop, and he played very much an Ezra role. I just thought he's been a very important player for the Broncos.
Talking about Reynolds moving on whenever he does, do you think that's what Jock's position is? Do you think that Kevy's potentially moving that on, or do you think that Jock's that good of a player that at the end of this year he can move on and get his own gig somewhere?
I think if you'd have said to me at the start of the season, what do you think with Jock Madden? I would have said, I think Jock is a very good backup halfback for, your number 1 or number 1, 7 or a 6. But what he's done this year at the Broncos, I think he's more than that. I think he's a bloke that can go in there and run a club.
It goes to show the coaching of Kevin Walters, because if you think of Penrith and what O'Sullivan, Cogger, now Schneider's doing whenever Cleary's out, like there's an opportunity if you're a half that has struggled to find their feet somewhere, go to a good system, learn from one of the best, and then in 12 months, 18 months' time, you might be in a position to either take over that gun halfback or move on.
Geez, on the Broncos, Reece Walsh's pretty special game again.
Yeah, we've said this about his comparisons to Slater and things. His ability to bamboozle defenders with speed and footwork, and then his combination with Adam Reynolds is developing into one of the best in the comp, because the guile and footy IQ of Reynolds is putting Reece Walsh in positions where defenders are struggling to stop him. Put it that simply.
You only need to manufacture a half space.
And he has taken it. All the way through.
You want to talk about a certain shape that he's just starting to use, that Tommy Turbo's sort of brought out again.
Yeah, it was the second try of Walsh on the week against the Tigers, and it's starting to come into play where they're trying to sell a lie with one decoy runner and then split them with speed. So Reynolds runs across here, dummies to Ricky, and then puts Walsh through the hole. What Reynolds is trying to do here is separate space between the 4th defender and the 5th defender, the 4th being Fainu and the 5th being Twal. What he does is he slow plays the first one so Twal stops. Then he accelerates really fast so Fainu, the back row, follows him.
Chase.
And that gap is not big, but I tell you what, it's fast enough for this guy to get through. Clever play.
And I tell you what, Coop, what's particularly dangerous about it is if you look at the line that he runs a parallel line initially, Reece, righto, to Adam Reynolds, righto. See that right there? It looks like he's going to come around on a block shape. See, that's where I always think the best shapes in rugby league have a mirror image. So effectively, if you're defending and you watch him cruising around on that shape, you're thinking, here he comes. He's coming across on a sweep block. But suddenly that turns into that little next Johnny play.
Yeah, and the speed and acceleration of Walsh up against a middle forward trying to fill the space. That is beautiful play there from Reynolds. It's just a mismatch. That's all you need with someone like Reynolds, because the arms tackle is him to get through and the points to come. And the funny thing is you can use it with speed or you can use it with power, because Tom Trbojevic does a very similar thing for his team, Manly. Sometimes he's on the right, on the left here. Again, it's Schuster ball playing, trying to get Whitehead involved and put him one-on-one with Tarpany. So drifts across, slow play, decoy with the little hook.
Yep. Yeah, it's same principle. You can see it's slightly different in the fact that he's not running the parallel line with Shuey there. But same principle. Just holds it up, Whitehead over chases.
And there's just footwork on Tarpany, a bigger defender. So I think the way that defence is dominating our game, and it always will be, teams are now starting to come up with ideas. One, shifting out of their own yardage to create space, but instead of always going to the outside, they're starting to come through with trick plays back through the middle.
Right, let's talk about that. Let's talk about it like that mirror image shape, righto? And let's just have a look at. There was a situation on the weekend where Reynolds went to the line with Piakora as his straight runner, and Reece is coming around on that sweep shape. And you watch Naden here. Right, Naden, that's that little space. You know that little space where suddenly they try to solve the problem by coming outside in aggressively. I come back to an old mentor of ours when I was at Newcastle, Alan Bell. Right, I come back to Belly, and he was just a genius of shapes. I think of him all the time when I see that shape there again. At Newcastle, every single time we called a shape where it wasn't a block to block, we used to call it a bust. Every single time, Robbie O'Davis would be, you'd have Reece on that deep sweep, you'd have Robbie O just sitting really close on the ball player, and we just take that space. This is an example. When you watch, Tom, what I'm talking about here, see this? Bang. Daly Cherry-Evans, okay, he's gone on the sweep. Lachlan Lewis is chased and just come out of the line slightly, and Tom Trbojevic has spotted it and accelerated. Bang.
The other thing too is the thing you can do with Reece, the thing you can do with Cherry-Evans is use them up as bait. Because most defenders think they're the biggest threat in this play because they don't see Turbo. But Reece on the other one, all you have to do is disguise Reece out there like a beacon, say, hello, this is me, and you throw someone else. Like maybe on this occasion it's Trbojevic, but maybe the other centre or a back rower or whoever can come through that hole to go through the space. Yeah,
they used it with Corey Oates last year
as
well. Righto, Coops. The other thing I'm really enjoying about the Broncos is sometimes, like, we talk about shot, hit them on one side of the field, shorten them up, gather numbers, then hit them to the far side as quick as you can, and you don't need to do it with shapes. You just do it. Get the ball to where it needs to be immediately. This is really good from Reynolds. Gathers the troop, 1 under, 2 under, hits short, it drives guys across. Piakora does a great job, gets up, plays the ball urgently. And Jock Madden again, great job. Don't stuff around. Just get the ball to where it needs to go. Sometimes it's what you don't do. Like, not trying to be too clever. Just get the ball out, that traditional shift.
And we just spoke about it. Reece Walsh the bait. What does Justin Olam like to do? He likes to come out and headhunt players. And, I like what Reynolds did by setting it up here and they get the ball there quickly. Jock Madden doesn't overplay his hand. He knows that Olam wants to fly out, smash Reece Walsh, so he just pivots, gets the ball straight to
Jeez, I tell you what, that's
good pass.
That's a real old-fashioned pass.
But this is
love it.
The best thing about wingers that put the ball down in the corner is that we marvel at that, but all the nuances that go on into play. That pass from Madden was spot on. If that's high, low, out in front, the play doesn't happen.
Everybody did their job.
That's
why they're going so good. 2 I'm on at the moment. I'm on the Broncos.
4?
I think that, righto, I reckon they'll win the comp.
Okay.
I reckon they'll win it.
Based on
what? I've heard a couple of people say without Reynolds out for these 3 months, they're tempted to put a line through him. I think this little stint without Adam Reynolds will do them a lot of good. And very similar to Newcastle, if they can chalk up, 60, 6 out of 10 or something like that, they're in great shape for when he returns.
I got that calculator out in terms of the Bronx. Right? So they're in 7th spot and they're on 10 points. Let's say Adams' injury is 14 weeks. In the next 14 games, the whole thing for me about the Broncos is got to get Adam back and you're in a good position in the finals. the redemption of what happened to them in the grand final last year will be a huge part if they can get to the finals for me. Like Kevin Walters, Adam Reynolds, Reece Walsh, all those players will want to make up for it. In the next 14 weeks, they got 3 byes. They play 3 games against teams in the top 5. That's only 3 teams above them on the ladder. Everything else is the bottom 6 teams, basically. So they'll win enough games to get them in the finals.
Yeah, I got no...
Big time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because for me, they're a side that can win the competition, sneaking in at 8th.
Yeah, they could, yeah. But as long as Reynolds is healthy and they're all in good condition, they will win enough games the next 14 weeks to have Adam there.
No doubt. So, as we said, without Adam Reynolds for a long stint, Jock Madden will come into the side, but he won't play. He's in, as we're recording this, sides aren't released, he's in doubt for this week. This week, there's talk that it'll be Tristan Saylor in the 6, Ezra Mam in the 7. I'm really curious to see what the combination does. It's a with Reece Walsh there. It's a big run threat.
Big time.
Yeah.
I think Madden's the key. With Reynolds out, I think Madden needs to play halfback. But with him out this week, absolutely throw it in. But sometimes the chaos can throw everyone else off kilter, right? And the one thing that Adam Reynolds brings to that team, he is in total control of that whole attack. Okay. He dictates terms, he moves them in the direction, and he calls the shots. If there's multiple shot callers, zinging the ball left, zinging the ball right, we saw what Reece Walsh did in the game against the Roosters on the weekend, just all in on every play.
So your concern will be, Coop, is that their football will start to go in a different direction, and when Renault comes back, he won't be able to put the leash on them.
I reckon he will be able to, but you can't take it too far. So I think Madden has to play halfback for them to continue on the path they need to get to the finals.
Yep.
But I want to see it too. As a fan, I would love to see that combination work. And if it works, does it stay for 6, 8, 10 weeks? I'm going to suggest no, because Madden probably comes straight in to fix the Adam Reynolds.
I mean, Tristan and Ezra, they are run-first players.
Big time.
Those two are not players who are going to steer around the side. So, this game coming this weekend, the damage that they're going to do to the Broncos is going to be their speed and their footwork drilling through the middle.
Yeah, and I get the run threat concept, because you have to be, as a ball player, you need to be a threat for yourself first before anyone else. But what's their percentage of their run threat and chaos? Is it 80% run threat chaos and just throwing the ball around, wait for an opportunity? Is it 50-50? How do they work in that combination? And does it ultimately win them the football game?
Yeah.
It might look pretty, but winning is everything.
Winning, it's right. So he was good on the weekend, and he's been terrific with that. Adam Reynolds is Jock Madden. Really impressive. Broncos 13-12, tough, gritty game. I reckon it's exactly what the Broncos needed.
Yeah, every week that Adam Reynolds is out, Madden's share price goes up. I think the fact that they're working around what does it look like, Madden is a very good replacement. And I'll tell you what I really liked about him is that when the game was in the balance there at 12-12, they got the penalty. A lot of halves will overcook it and try and score and make it look fancy. He literally just went 1, 2, 3 left side of the post, give me the ball and I'll kick it. Sometimes in those moments, particularly less than around 5 minutes to go, the more passes, the more chaos that comes into play, the more chances for error. And how many times do we see that where it doesn't get there, someone knocks it on or whatever? Simplicity when the game is on the line is the best way of executing the play.
It's an open competition.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Penrith dropped, a couple of injuries to big players. The Sharks are there, they're consistent. Storm have this real up, but they've got some question marks around some of their injuries, so it is open.
Of course, Broncos too.
Yeah,
the Broncos. But
they struggled last week, the Bronx. The defence, they are a good team, and I feel like their defence is letting themselves down at different stages, particularly the Titans. And they had this mindset of we'll be right, we've got Selwyn, we've got Payne, Carrigan, Reece out the back, they'll do something to win it. But they're in this period, you're not going to have them.
Well, this is it, Coops. If they're in a position at the moment, whereas if the Origin period, if they don't continue, if they don't go on a bit of a winning run through this period, they're going to come out of the Origin period under pressure.
Yep.
Where in a situation, there's nothing worse when you're in a team and you find yourself in a position to go, right up, we've got to win 4 out of the last 5.
Yep.
That can take it a bit out of your tank.
And when you lose Adam Reynolds, the last thing you need to be doing is creating bad habits in your defence and your long game mentality for when he comes back. It's a bit like Penrith. Like they're keeping their habits while Nathan's away. So they're defending well, and the Broncos need to address their defence at the moment.
Broncos lost 3 straight, Coops.
You worried about them?
If you're a Broncos supporter, should you be not worried, mildly concerned, extremely worried?
Mildly concerned.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, mildly concerned.
Why?
Renault's coming. Just the nature of the way they've lost those games, going through this tough Origin period. Why it concerns me, I know they're going to come good, Coop.
Yep.
I know they're going to turn it around. I can't see them getting into the top 4 now.
Yep.
The problem is if they continue to just drop a game here and a game there, they're going to get to the point that with 5 rounds to go, they're going to need to win 4 of the last 5.
Yep.
One of those scenarios. And most of the time when sides are placed in that situation, if they get there, they've spent their pennies.
Yep.
That's my concern around the Bronx.
Yeah, I'm concerned because when you remove someone like Adam Reynolds from your team, you can't create bad habits in your game and then expect Adam to come back and fix everything.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is the example is Penrith, right? You take Nathan out, their completion rate doesn't change, their defence doesn't change, they still are, working hard for one another. Then Nathan comes in and adds his spice and it's great.
Well, Coops,
right?
I think that's been one of the secrets of them winning the competition,
Yep.
is during those years, losing Nathan for a period and then forcing them to tidy up and improve other areas of their game.
They double down on the basics, and the issue I have with the Broncos right now is their completion rate is poor. They're conceding way too many points, and they are just throwing the ball, expecting talent to get them over the line. And doesn't matter if this continues on and then Adam comes back, their winning rate won't change. I reckon what they need to do is double down, play some real conservative but defence-orientated football, and then when their guns come back like Walsh and Reynolds, they will add that star power to them.
That's right. Rebuild your game again.
Yep.
Broncos, are they going to play finals?
I am really stuck on this one. I thought defensively for a period of time they were lacking everything that made them great at different stages last year. And I thought their game against Penrith, while they didn't win, there was signs of that aggression, that line speed, a lot of good defensive efforts on their goal line. I just don't know that they're slipping backwards quickly. This Origin period has hurt them. And talent to burn, but also some of their assistant coaches have left too.
The Lee Breeze one, I don't know.
So Cartwright's gone.
He's gone to Super League.
Yeah.
Now, Lee Breeze, I don't know whether it's Breezy's decision or it's the club's decision or what it was, but I think he's not going to be there next year. They've told him that. Now, I don't know if Breezy might have a sniff of a job back in England.
Somewhere else.
I don't know. But if it's the club's decision to go, then that's...
Mate, I'm going to hold my chips on that Broncos decision. You asked me that. What do you think?
I think they will. I think they'll get there. Coop,
they're way too talented. They have to. Right?
My prediction for the Broncos they'd reach second week of the finals. I don't think they're capable of making the 8 and just having a run right through. Yeah. I reckon the second week of the finals. What the position they've put themselves in, Coops, is that suddenly the pressure's on now.
Yep.
Where you've got to get out there. You've got to be out there. You've got to be winning games. And that pressure takes a toll on the petrol tank. Oftentimes you get there and you've got nothing left. Yeah. It actually reminds me, Coop, if we go back to season 1999, way back in the rear vision mirror, Broncos won the comp in 98. In 99, they started the season. I mean, there was something not quite right. They lost 8 in a row, I think, to start season 99. Alfie retired on the way through. Remember that they played North Queensland?
Yeah.
He retired.
Yeah.
Now, they were in dire straits, but Wayne pulled them together and they went on this great run. Yeah. They made the finals, got knocked out the first week by Cronulla because they spent all their pennies getting there.
Yeah.
So that's the danger they find themselves in.
And you think about just off the top of my head, like Broncos, Manly, Cowboys. I think the Dragons might even be in and around that mark, around the 8th, 9th spot. It's time for those teams to start putting a good 3 or 4 weeks together to separate from that pack, because the last thing you need to be doing is worrying about every point that you score or concede coming into last week, and it might just come down to that. Before we move on to Origin and that, Matty, let's talk about the finals. Right, so there is, let's say the top 4 are locked in. Who makes it? The big one here is the Broncos. After losing on the weekend, they need to win 6 of their last 7 games. They got 1 bye. Can they get there?
Oh, they can, Coops. They cannot tell, but the bottom line is, will they? I don't think they will.
No, like with 6 from 7, they've got the Knights next week, then the Dogs. In a month's time, 4 weeks, they play the Cowboys away from home. Up there. So the next period of time off the back of Origin, like I think we'll know the Broncos, but for me, they could probably put that hot streak together and win 6 of those, but geez, not the way they're playing.
Well, Coops, their last 2 games is they've got the Dolphins. So do you reckon Wayne will have them up?
The Battle of Brisbane.
And Dolphins could be fighting for a final spot. Who knows, they might be fighting for a top 4 spot. And then they've got the Melbourne Storm to finish with. Now, Melbourne Storm might rest some players. You don't know, but that's it. And
so now we're starting to put a line through the Broncos. Like the Warriors, they got 6 from 7. The Raiders don't have a bye. They've got to win 6 of 8. So you can almost start putting lines through.
We're starting to. As we start to shift to talk about the Broncos, because we haven't done this show for a little while now and it's worth discussing.
You've been on holidays for a month.
Mate, let me tell you, once again, mate, I tell you, it was 8 o'clock in the morning, sometimes finishing at 2 o'clock, covering all sports. Fencing, ping pong.
I got you.
Okay, we're about to talk about the Broncos, but when you talk about, the reason, what is the primary reason why it's been such a bludgeonous a season for the Broncos? Well, we say oftentimes, is success tests your mettle. That's what it does. So to take a step backwards, we're just speaking about then, don't you tip your lead to the Melbourne Storm, the Penrith Panthers. Regardless of the success individually and collectively, the fire in the belly doesn't go out.
Always find a reason why. And the Broncos haven't really found their reason why. You could say Origin, you could say loss of Reynolds, but you could say that for Melbourne. Melbourne lost Munster. Penrith lost Cleary. It's the same thing, but the work ethic from everyone else covers the loss of that.
Is a big football mad city? Like Brisbane, and oftentimes the one team. So they've got the Dolphins
now. I will tell you
now,
this. So they've struggled in the last 6 weeks, the Bronx, big time. But their second half performance, there was a moment in that game where in the 75th minute or something, Katoni Staggs turns the ball over by making a good tackle defensively. Reece Walsh runs almost 80 metres to score. Katoni Staggs is the right centre. He made the tackle, forced the error. He ends up scoring as left centre. That effort from Katoni Staggs to do that here and then down there, it just has not been enough of that. I saw it, I noticed it, and I thought, that's why the Broncos aren't doing what they're doing. There is not 17 players doing that, whereas you could have done that in any game of the Broncos last year and would have seen an effort like that. Across the board.
That sort of effort, you're a Broncos fan, or if you're Kevy Walters more to the point, you'd look and going, fellas,
where was that?
Where was that 6 weeks ago when we needed to do something? Broncos, look, there's my opinion, I'll stand by it. Last year's success and the adulation and the expectation that came with that success poisoned the well. And as far as next season's concerned, the bottom line is they need a lot of self-assessment if they're going to go anywhere.
Yeah, when you sit there and sift through like the football reasons why, like you could go attack, defence, discipline, errors, whatever it is. But the thing that underpins that whole thing is I think the Broncos last year, individually and as a team, had a real like sort of laser focus to improve and get better. And I don't think they had that this year. And that's ultimately why they missed out on finals. I don't think they worked hard enough individually to improve their game and ultimately collectively to do it. Because, it was super disappointing.
Yeah. Just think of the mindset there, Coops. You said something there, and I think to myself, a lot of teams will get to a grand final and get beaten, and there's 2 ways of thinking. You either go away filthy and you say, we've failed, or you go off triumphant and say, we didn't win it, but fantastic season. I think with the Broncos, it was the latter.
The example is, Penrith got beaten by the Melbourne Storm in that grand final, and they came back in that off-season, started working harder. Look what they've done. They've improved each year. Parramatta got beaten in a grand final.
Bush.
And bang.
Yep.
Brisbane got beaten in the grand final and went bang. If they don't work hard enough to improve,
Bunnies. Bunnies
Pressure.
too. Bunnies was another one.
Bunnies, yep.
Another one.